Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Frosty and Flake Show, episode 2, aka the best episode.
This will that we if we're on a mentality of continuous improvement, every single episode should be our best episode. But this one specifically, Frosty, I know that we discussed this in the hours and hours and hours that we spent preparing for the show. Again, this was going to be our pièce de résistance, our magnum opus, or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yes, absolutely. That means we actually came back for a second episode.
Which is great. We were renewed for a second.
Renewed.
The pilot was picked up, which is fantastic, given the fact that we're the producers and the executives behind it, right? So
absolutely. How was your weekend, buddy?
It was good. So I basically, as soon as I finished my stream on Friday, this is the reason why we didn't have a stream on the actual Friday. And I hopped in a car and I went to Montreal, where I live is in Toronto, which is about 350 miles away. So I went to go visit friends and family who were having like a weekend thing. So I zooped over there. I ate like a king. I went to bed at like 9:30 every night and woke up at 8 so I was rested. I was fed, and it was a good time. And I was well like medicated with alcohol for the most
nice
part of the weekend. Yeah,
my
parents have the greatest part is my parents have a nice house that's sort of behind it is like a protected sort of nature path reserve area. They just lucked out. Well, when they bought the house. Well, the cool part about it is like when they bought the house, it was all being developed in that area. But it just so happened that after they bought it, the city decided that it's okay. This is the last street. Everything behind it is protected and part of like the park, like the city park or whatever. But a lot of that is actually like trees and nature and stuff. So
nice.
The backyard is like a pool and a deck, and then just nature. So again, it's not mine, it's my parents. It's not like I'm not trying to brag or anything. Like it's like I go there.
Well, you will inherit it, so it'll eventually be yours.
That's correct. If my sister continues to be a fuck up, then absolutely it's mine. How was your weekend, by the way?
I got super drunk on Saturday and smoked brisket for about 10 hours.
Now that like brisket isn't like some kind of thing that kids call weed now, right? It was actual brisket.
No, yeah, it was beef. Like beef brisket.
Okay. like I don't know. Some people are like, yeah, if you mix this with hash or weed, we call it brisket. I don't know. Like, so if you say that you're smoking brisket, I don't know if you were high or you were actually just eating meat.
So that's what circus cookie is.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, I have a smoker, just a bullet box smoker, and smoked about 20 pounds of brisket on Saturday. Took me about 10 hours. So
I saw your tweets. I was very jealous.
I've been thinking of the whole Instagram thing for the food that I make, but we'll see. Maybe.
Is this like a business venture that you're kind of like going down, or like what's your story here?
It has been like this odd dream in the back of my head, like to have a food truck, and like
Ooh.
I know it's never gonna happen, but it would just be kind of funny.
Don't say that. Do not say that.
But you know, I've always loved cooking and cooking for people and hosting and doing that whole thing. So, you know, whenever I get a chance, I cook a bunch of food. Me and my friends, we just party, have a bunch of beers, and just chill for a day because fuck, the week sucks sometimes. So you just want to relax, and so that was fun. But I do want to say real quick before we kind of continue on with the show. Not many people maybe know who he is, or who he was. But we lost In Control over the weekend. Jeff Robinson, who, for those of you who don't know who he is, he was one of the OGs of MLG, the original esports, and him, Total Biscuit, Sean, aka Day9, they were all sort of part of this origination of esports and what esports was, and he passed away on Saturday, and the only information that we kind of have about it is that it was an illness suddenly, but no sort of information from that. And so I just want to kind of take a moment and say, you know, thank you, Jeff, for everything that you did for esports and kind of launching this entire genre of gaming. And rest in peace, buddy.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, it goes by the name of No Control, and he's the one who texted me. He's like, "Yeah, I'm a little bit torn up today." And I said, you know, like him and I chat a lot, and I'm like, oh, why? He's like, well, yeah, Jeff passed away, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And I am very much not shy to say that I'm new to the streaming
Sure.
and YouTube and esports world, so I didn't know necessarily who he was because I'm so more recently indoctrinated into this whole culture and whatnot, and I love it and I adore it. But it's like getting into Magic and you only know the set that was released when you got in and maybe
Right.
2 or 3 sets back. So you're kind of working your way back and learning the names and whatnot. But No Control, my buddy No Control got his
Right.
name as a play on In Control.
On In Control?
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
he was torn up about it and we kind of were chatting about it. So yeah, unfortunate news, but I mean, c'est la vie. And I guess it's one of those things where you just wish for the best for everyone surrounding that scenario, as unfortunate as it may be.
There was a picture posted that kind of hit me, and thinking about it, it's a little rough. There's a picture of Total Biscuit and Jeff Robinson on the commentator's desk for MLG, and it's like, and we lost Total Biscuit last year.
Oh yeah,
and so it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like,
yeah.
so you know, respects, and tell your loved ones that you love them, because
I love
Just-
you, man.
you just don't know. I love you too, Flake. You
Perfect.
just don't know. But moving on into some more happy news, some releases over the weekend.
Yes.
Ultimate Alliance 3 came out on Friday.
Yes.
I played it. I streamed it a little bit.
Oh, so you
Um,
did stream it?
I did, yeah. And
Okay, who was the insta pick, insta lock character that you chose?
Deadpool.
All right, okay.
But that's because like you have to unlock them throughout the game, and when you play it, you'll see. But it's the best Ultimate Alliance 3 or Ultimate Alliance they've made, but it's still Ultimate Alliance. So part of me is like, fucking just make Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Like, I see these characters and I see them on screen, I see them interacting, I see the moves from the MVC games, the looks from the MVC games, and I'm just like, just make the game. But Ultimate Alliance 3 is a lot of fun, and I think it would be more fun with friends, like with people. Just playing it by yourself is a little monka.
Well, everybody gets their kind of character that they associate with, and then you kind of plug forward with it, and everybody gets really, you get jacked up when you get to combine like your 2 ultimate like moves and stuff like that, and you're kind of. You look at your buddy and he looks at you and you're like, you ready, Iron Man? And he's like, you got it, Cap. And then all of a sudden you're just beaming off of shields and just crushing face. But I'm glad that, you're giving it a decent review, because I've played the previous ones with a lot of enthusiasm. And the fact that you're saying it's the best of that, line of games makes it very tempting for me to just chuck the headphones right now and go at the door and buy it. So
yeah, it is. And for those who are looking forward to it, like, I said it on stream, and I'll say it again here. Personally, unless you are a mega fan of Marvel and of Ultimate Alliance games, throwing $60 at this game,
okay,
don't know if I can get behind. But
all right.
But if you are a massive fan and you were looking forward to this game and you're excited for it, then it is the best of them, I think.
I feel like this is a game where you get your 3 buddies and everybody pools $15 in the, and then you all play it together. Like it's like, what are we doing on Saturday? Everyone tossed in like $20. We're getting pizza and playing Ultimate Alliance kind of thing, right? So yeah,
absolutely.
All right, I feel it.
Definitely one of those games.
Beyond that, though, I mean, in terms of card gaming, Magic kind of dropped I don't want to say it's a little bit of a bomb, because I don't know if you were looking and following along with all the sort of the teases and the breadcrumbs they left regarding the new set and the big changes, because they were talking about like there's going to be huge changes and they're going to be massive and whatnot, and everybody was kind of waiting with bated breath on what the hell's going to happen. And there were some really weird conspiracy theories that were being floated on Reddit and whatnot. Things like, oh, they're going to add a new color, they're going to expand.
Yeah, that pipe
like,
dream.
Yeah, well, that whole purple mana thing, I think, has been a meme for a little while now. But regardless, ultimately, nothing happened. I mean, I say nothing happened because the big news was that they've created tier levels of booster packs, right? So I don't know if you saw what. Yeah, so
there was
draft packs.
Draft packs. That's right.
Theme packs, and then collector packs, right? So
Are they
I don't know.
Are they called collector packs?
I think
I know what you're talking about. They have like a higher chance of getting
Well,
the.
they're guaranteed. It's like they're all foil. Everything in it is foil.
Oh,
You're
okay.
Yeah, you're guaranteed like a mythic drop. You're guaranteed, or something like. I think it's like, or all the commons and uncommons are going to be foil. You're guaranteed a rare or mythic foil, and then you're guaranteed another rare or mythic. Plus, you're guaranteed like 3 altered extended art cards and stuff like that. Regardless, the thing about it that kind of sacked me a little bit about it is just it's cool and all, and there's some interesting art and concepts, but it's going to be like between $20 and $25 for a pack of 15 cards. Now you're getting some pretty cool jam out of it, but I mean,
Wizards prints money.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Oh,
what is a booster box going to be about?
Well, think about it. I mean, it depends if it's going to be the standard booster box of 36 packs of it, but you can probably think that it's going to be like $600 a box. I mean, if you're looking at a little bit of a price deduction when you're buying it from a box rather than like pack to pack.
Yeah,
but this might be just a matter of people just hoarding boxes and as like seeing it skyrocket, like what happened to like those Master Series things and whatever. It's bananas.
Yeah, like chat's saying, like the secondary market reaction to this is going to be kind of nutty. When like they already have a problem with the Master Series like blowing up in the secondary market in terms of like people buying boxes and just waiting. But at least like the thing is, they know what's getting printed in those. So, and they're usually all reprints, right? All the Master Series have all been reprints for the most part. So all that really does is kind of drive down singles from older ones or anything like that. We're talking about a brand new set coming with cards that we have no clue what they are, and we have no clue what the impact they're going to have. So if this turns out to be another like absurdly powerful set, then suddenly those collector's boxes like skyrocket because of one asshole Teferi card, like that suddenly makes an impact in every format.
That's the card you went to, which is the one I was thinking of too.
Teferi.
Well, yeah, it's like they're gonna print. There's gonna be that one chase card, that one either rare or mythic. That's like, okay, you need 4 of these for whatever tier 1 deck is gonna, take standard by storm after rotation and whatnot. It's fine, and it happens. But if there's that card plus a foil version plus an extended art version, you're creating legitimately like this one chase. Like for instance, when War of the Spark came out, I know some people, and I know that there was a giant market for the Japanese versions because of the altered art for it. Right. And like an altered art Liliana foil, like the Japanese.
It was like a grand, foil, wasn't it?
It was floating around 4 figures, right? Like close to it, pushing it, even surpassing it. But people were buying the product because of the chance of actually rolling the dice and nailing one of those cards.
Yeah, the foil Charizard, like,
bingo
theme.
Precisely. And the thing about it is, like, I don't mind it. Like, to some people, it's fun in games and whatever. But people who would go to my LGS and buy the packs and open them and say, check it out, I got, they put them in their decks and whatever. It's like I found a Narset altered, like a Japanese art Narset and whatever. So they play that because everyone knew what Narset does. It's just cool to have in your deck. It's flexing a little bit. It's cool. It's like having a foil card, but not foil card. The thing about it was that I'm part of like a Facebook group here in Toronto for buying and selling cards. And well, I've taken advantage of it and I've sold stuff and I've bought stuff and usually it's decent people, but a lot of the posts that came out was, I've got a guy coming in from Japan and he's bringing in 20 boxes of, and it's like insta sell. Like every single box was purchased not because they wanted to, collect War of the Spark. It's because they were literally just, dumpster diving for those cards.
Yeah, they're just trying to hit the lottery.
And I worry that that's what this is going to become, is that people are, that's what, let's be honest, that's what the collector boosters are for, right?
Absolutely. And Magic's always had the lottery, like, kind of feeling, no matter what. Like, regardless of the set, regardless of what time it was, I remember shit, I think you can go back now and find like World Wake packs that are like $15 to $20. It's just a fucking regular set, but because it has Jace the Mind Sculptor in it, there's that possibility.
Right.
Of course, there's other cards within World Wake that are actually still very good too, and kind of expensive. But that was the big thing. Was like, well, you could pop Jace, you know. And I'll never forget, in my local LGS, somebody went and purchased. It was like $13 for the pack. They purchased one World Wake pack and opened up a foil Jace.
Oh, and how much is that worth in your pack? Like that's how much
at the time. At the time, it was like $400 or $500.
Right.
But I think he's gone like up and down since then. But Amazon has World Wake packs listed at $40. So there you go. Like Magic's always had that feeling, and I don't know if Wizards is trying to purposefully pop the bubble. Like, so there's this theory of a bubble on Magic Finance, where there comes a point where the players will just say, "Fuck it! Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not paying $100 a card for Planeswalkers that were just printed, a week ago."
Right.
And it goes back further and further to where you're starting to look at legacy cards that are like literally thousands of dollars for some of these cards, and you just have to wonder, when does it stop? Like, at what point? Konami controlled it by just reprinting shit. They're like, oh, a card hit $100. Here's it in a $10 target tin. Like, no big deal. So I wonder if Wizards is purposefully pushing these weird styles, and this has to be in Japan. Japan only gets these specific ones, and Europe used to only get certain lands that were based on areas in Europe, and now we have the collectors packs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if they're starting to purposely fuck with the finance, so that it's like, well, we don't know which one's gonna take off, but eventually people are just gonna say, fuck it, I'll just purchase the packs instead, and I have a better shot at opening a storybook version of whatever the fuck commander I want, rather than paying the $200 or $300.
Well, and like you're saying, when is it gonna stop, and when they're gonna kind of? I mean, they added these tiers because people are buying them, like, and that's just the difference.
Absolutely.
Because it seems silly for someone like myself. Like, to me, my joy, and I understand collecting, because if you were to pan anywhere beyond my green screen, you'd see a plethora of Star Wars knickknacks and garbage that I've collected over 20 years of having, a moderate income, to my name. So every time, be it Star Wars cards, Star Wars figurines, shit like that, it's like just plastered everywhere. And this is just what I was able to take with me when I moved out of my parents' house and moved to Toronto, and just stuff that I used to have like hanging and displayed and whatever, and eventually it's that in comic books. But like, that's the thing, man. Like, I have disposable income, and now Magic is no longer a game for kids. It's a game for kids and adults, man. Like,
adults with no expenses.
Fuck no, exactly. Like, it's like, do you want like, put it this way, do you want a foil Jace the Mind Sculptor for your deck or whatever, or do you want to have kids? Like, which do you? Because you can't. It's rent, kids, and Jace. Pick three. Pick two of the three. That's what you can have, man. Like, you can't have it all. So that's kind of where it's at now. And the fact that they're doing this, I understand why they're doing it, is because there is a demand for these ultra rare, blinged out fucking flex cards. Like, literally, these are cards they're dick wagging cards is what it is. It's like,
sure,
because the card that you have that's scratched and has a fucking scratch and sniff sticker on it is the same fucking card as the guy who's got full art foil and the googly eyes in the art. Like, that's just
dude, that's brilliant thing. Oh my god, that's fucking brilliant. Have like a space in the card to have googly eyes.
Dude, I have said this before. I thought that the best thing that a card creator can do is, if they figured out, like that creepy shit where you're looking at a painting and no matter where you go, the eyes follow you.
Because it's inverted, yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. If they had a way to actually do that with like the foiling or whatever, to make the eyes just fucking stare right in your soul the entire time you're looking at it, I think that would be the next creepiest shit. Because if you're looking at Teferi and he's just fucking eye fucking you while he's saying reverse, then you're like, okay, I'm done, brother.
Hurry up.
Yeah. So
Arena did do the April Fool's googly eyes thing. That's true.
Yeah, those
did
were on the deck boxes.
That's right.
Yeah, which was cool, dude. That was like actually funny and that was clever and whatnot. But I'm saying like right on the goddamn card. But it's blinging out cards, and you're right because and you know to say what Chat's saying is like, well, the only time that it's not going to happen is if people don't buy paper and go to actual like, just Arena. But if when the world ends, it's going to be cockroaches playing fucking Paper Magic, and that's what's
Paper Magic will never end. I am putting my feet firmly on that side of that argument. Paper Magic will never end because not only is it the competitiveness, the having the physical cards in front of you, it's the social aspect of it, like interacting with somebody. I've made some of my best friends through the game of Magic by going to tournaments and traveling with these people. So I don't think Paper Magic will ever end. The only way Paper Magic ends is if Wizards like just straight up murders it, which they're slowly murdering the GP circuit, like with just small little stabs of like a 1-inch blade. Like no coverage this year. Oh hey, one of our like top MPL pros won the GP. Fucking zero coverage. Like they're slowly killing the GP circuit.
Which is I just want to say that's kind of curious because I don't know if you obviously remember. What was it like 6 months ago when they were advertising the $1 million?
Yes,
it's like be a celebrity, be all you can be.
The world will know your name unless you win a GP. Then nobody will.
Well, and that was what's really curious. And I mean, to Wizards' credit, they've done a lot to actually promote the streaming and competitive community in various ways. Absolutely, but the one thing that I think would really kind of bothers me is in a lot of regards, and I'm not going to take anything away from the people who actually are showing up to these events, competing and doing what they do because they bring in viewership and they're entertaining and they're genuinely good people. They're not going to take people who are usually not awful people. But I feel like in a circuit, in a competitive circuit, you always need to go for who are the best people in the fucking world, right? Like who are the best, not, and that's why the Red Bull tournament kind of poked me the wrong way when they're like, okay, what's your rank? But how many followers do you have? It's like, well, again, like that kind of just sort of, it was like a little thorn, like a little, and I'm like, that's when I was like, I'm not getting in, dude, because I'm fucking Joe Blow Saximo who doesn't,
That's not true. You're a flake.
Well, thank you. I know. I appreciate that.
I get it. But like Saturday during the party here, I was talking with one of my friends who still plays Paper Magic, still travels, and I asked him if he played Arena, and he said, "Yeah, but I only play it because that's where I can get the most standard games in a small amount of time." And I asked him if he would ever, if he tries to push for top 1,000, whatever, Mythic and everything like that. And he's like, yeah, but he's like, I would rather go to a GP, or travel to an SCG tournament or something. And I asked him why. He said, because that's where the best players are. Like, he wants the high-end competition to better himself. And that's because they go there for the prize money. They grind these out and, they're, for whatever the word is worth, they're professional Magic players, and that's where he goes. So I can understand that, but there comes a point where you're trying to like balance here's a flight, hotel, food, any cards I'm missing, any Uber rides, fucking any number of these extra expenses to travel to a tournament that is not promoting people that win or play or anything like that. It's not helping any of my brand if I happen to be a streamer or a social media person, and I have to damn near win the thing in order to make all the money back.
Yeah.
So if your point to travel is to win, which everybody's point to go to a tournament should be to win, but you're going there to like hang out. At least for me, I'm going there to hang out with friends. And be with my people, Magic nerdom, like, so I don't know, man. I mean, it's weird.
It's like dating, man. Like, no, but think about it. It's like, why should I go meet someone at a bar, spend a bunch of money, just to maybe get a shot at it when fucking Tinder's right in my palm of my hand, or I can get just like, best of three, best of three, best of three, like just keep going. Like it's no big deal. I get it though. And I totally understand. And, like, I don't think MTGA is going anywhere for a long, long time, if ever. I think that it'll have the lifespan of Hearthstone plus whatever beyond that. I think it'll outlive Hearthstone, to be honest with you. But I don't think Paper's going anywhere. And I saw some people actually sort of like trading barbs on Reddit about what would actually maintain longevity. And as the arguments were sort of flying back and forth about whether it be MTGA that survives the longest or Paper that survives the longest, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, Paper's not going anywhere. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's just it's money that they're creating constantly. It's just
they're literally printing $100 bills.
Yeah, not to mention, like, the infrastructure for MTGA is already there, so all the resources and development is always going to Paper. So MTGA will just ride the coattails of, okay, here's all the cool stuff. Let's toss it to MTGA for coding, and then it's done. Like, I don't think that they actually have the big brains in that department. I'm not saying that the people in MTGA don't have big brains. I'm saying like no, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, all the spearheading,
talking about R&D. Like, the R&D is for Paper.
Yeah, they're all in Paper, and it's. I mean, ultimately, it's the same game, but I think it's like, okay, here's what we have, and let's do this. And then when they're done, it's like, okay, let's just roll it up, put it in a fucking cylinder, throw it in the tube, and then MTGA in another dimension gets it, and they do their thing. But
I think Arena reaches a certain group of people that don't either have the time due to having a family or other responsibilities, 9-to-5 jobs, stuff like that. So they don't have the time to either travel or go out on a Friday night. You used to play FNM, right?
Well, I mean,
or you did.
I mean, I still go to my LGS and play like every week that I can, but it's not Friday. But I go for either standard or for draft. So.
Sure. Whatever day FNM happens to be on, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, whatever.
I was gonna say SNM, but that sounds not quite right. But
I mean,
Saturday night.
We don't kink shame here.
No, we definitely not. But there were no whips and chains.
But like our Friday night, signups started at 5, tournaments started at 6. If you worked a 9-to-5, your ass was racing across town just to get to signups. Sometimes people were like calling ahead to the store, like, I'm stuck at a light, 10 minutes down the road. Like, can you just write me down? I'll toss you the $5 when I walk in the door. Mm-hmm. And tournament starts at 6, and we're playing till 2-3 in the morning sometimes. Depending on how many people showed up. And it was like if you tried to have any other like responsibilities on Friday night, you're like, sorry, I'm fucking going to play Magic. And then your Saturday morning was toast because you got home at 4 in the morning. So it's, now I can sit here in the comfort of my office and play some standard in my underwear, drinking a beer, and lose, rage quit, close everything down, and go to bed.
Well, and that's where the difference lies, right? It's like, I mean, you could do that. I mean, let's just be honest. But yeah, I mean, accessibility is a lot of what drives this
absolutely
competitive culture, because not to mention, you can't go to your LGS and be like, hey, I'm new, so give me 10 packs and then give me a solid deal for the first 5 pack. I want 5 packs and or 10 packs for $5, and then I'm going to show up every day, and every day that I play, you're going to give me a pack. And like, no, it doesn't work that way, right? Like, there's no free to play when you get to unless, hold on.
I challenge an LGS to do that.
Oh, okay. Now, I will say this. I've heard of a lot of LGSs and stores and whatnot that are very generous with giving new players. It's like, I heard that there's a school that has a Magic. So here's like 1,000 cards of commons, uncommons, and penny rares and whatever. So go nuts. Like in those cases, but there's no established kind of path that you can take where you, as a new player, I think that's why I think like Paper's intimidating to get into. So I think that something like MTGA is more of like, I know it's weird to say a gateway drug into itself, but that's what it is. I mean, NTGA
It
is
is.
just your gateway drug into the
More
drug
magic,
itself.
yeah.
It's like, hey, try this heroin. If you like it, you might really like heroin. You know, so like, that's kind of what happens.
It is, and one of the big things that I think a big draw of Arena at least is the resolving of the rules. Magic is the most complex game probably ever, and Arena just kind of handles it all for you. You don't really have to think about it. You don't have to track life totals. You don't have to track, okay, this creature had a damage on it, this one didn't. What creature has lifelink? If I gave a temporary lifelink and destructible, Arena takes care of all that for you. And if you've ever walked by any table with like 2 token players going at it, you feel so bad because they're sitting there, they've run out of tokens, and now they're just using dice, and they're writing shit down on paper, and it's like that's terrifying when you're like a new person. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't. Why are there a billion things in play? When you can just go to Arena and then it crashes on you when you reach a certain point.
Well, I mean, if you're just creating Polyraptors like over and over and over again with Marauding Raptor, I guess. I mean, maybe that's not the best idea, but I mean, I totally get what you're saying in that regard. Like, it's an easier way. It's a I don't want to call it a crutch because just following the rules should not be a crutch, but it's having a judge or someone over your shoulder at all times to say, you can't do this, or yes, you can. Otherwise, that falls on you, the player, to be like, okay, what are you doing here? And I had a really interesting conversation this weekend with some of my buddies, all card players, not Magic card players, but they used to play cards with me in other games and whatnot. And they asked me, they're like, so what happens if you're at a game? And I said, like, they gave me the hypothetical situation. You're in a match and your opponent miscalculates something that's in your favor. Do you call it, or do you just let it go because it's in your favor? And I said, well, depends on what the situation is, because you're not necessarily having someone watch over you. If you can catch it and the match doesn't have any significance, I'm like, in my opinion, I'm like, if the match has no significance, I always make sure that I make the right call. But if there's something significant on the line, to me, the responsibility is on the person. What's that? I can't. Magic Judge? Are you Magic Judge? Okay. So you are a licensed...
Do you want... I have my card.
Okay, so hit me up with the actual ruling for this, because I didn't know how to properly answer it. I said, I'm like, if I catch it and there's nothing on the line, or there's nothing significant on the line, I always just make sure that I correct whatever the error is that they missed, even if it's at my own, fuck up.
What a polar bears. Yeah, it's a... Okay, so official Magic ruling, right here. It is both players' responsibility to keep the game state correct, no matter what that correct is. If they attack you for 6 and they only mark down 4, you can't suddenly gain 2 life. You took 6. You have to correct it.
But what if nobody catches it? For instance,
it's on both players.
Okay, so in which case, but there's no, like, let's say a Massacre Girl on a fucked up board, and
sure.
And ultimately you miss something, and it's either the whole board clears, or you leave something that shouldn't be left there, or there's triggers missed, but nobody gets it. In what case is it the response? Is it like, if nobody if it's one of those, like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one...
Does anybody hear it? Okay. So if
a
nobody
judge
catches it, if a judge catches it, you're both getting penalties. If 30 turns pass and suddenly your opponent goes, wait a minute, I attacked you for 6 like 30 turns ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you didn't. Like, nobody knows, because you wrote down 4 and they wrote down 6, or whatever happened. Right. Judge is going to come over and says, well, it's word versus word. I can't reverse the board state. Like, probably penalize both of you because neither one of you agreed on anything. If an investigation happens and it turns out that you are purposefully hiding information, or you took advantage of a situation knowingly, then you are now cheating, and you will probably be DQ'd.
Right.
And a game loss and or DQ, depending on judge and all this. There's the fucking handbook is like huge. But yes, it is the responsibility of both players to keep the game state correct, no matter who in favor of who. Does not matter.
Okay, before people start thinking I'm some kind of like really shady clown when I play, I've never played in a scenario where there's actually anything significant on the line.
No.
I have always I'm just saying, I have always called it out and said, no, like you kill me, that had death touch, or like no, this has first strike, so blah blah blah.
You absolutely should. The thing is, like, I'm sure there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of games that end when there were like 30 rules broken and neither player caught it, no bystander caught it, no judge caught it, and like this player died because they thought they took 10 when in reality they took 5. Like, I'm sure any number of those games happen all the time. But like, and if we're talking like at an FNM, like the REL, like the what did REL stand for? Our Judge Brain Kickback. Rules enforcement level. The rules enforcement level, depending on the tournament you're in, can quantify the penalties and or which rules are super enforced. So, like, if you're at an FNM and you're like, fuck, I needed to create 2 tokens off of Marvin or something and I forgot. Like, you're gonna, even if there is a judge on staff, which there probably is not, the TO tends to be the judge, so your store owner in that case. Gonna come over and say, hey, don't fucking forget again, like, here's your 2 tokens. Like, because it's meant to be, I think it's called casual REL or regular REL, I forget the actual level of it. But then once you get into like a GP or a PTQ or a PPTQ or whatever the fuck they call it now, that is now there is a level 1 and a level 2 on staff. Decks are being written down, decks are being checked, like, rules are being enforced at that level. That if you mess up, that is a warning, game violation, or a GRV, a game rule violation, and it's going to get marked down on the back of your slip, and it's going to get put into the computer. If it happens multiple times in a tournament, they can start escalating it to game losses, match losses, and then DQs. So, that's a whole other like the judge program. As much as I loved it when I was in it, there is some serious wrongness in it. But it is there to help players. It's not there to penalize them. Judges aren't there to be mean. They're not there to like sit and fucking this is how you're supposed to play the game. Like, they're there to make sure that everybody's having a good time, that everybody's playing by the rules,
right?
So that your opponent doesn't go like, hey, I didn't draw any land in my opening 7. I get to just draw a free 7, right? And like shuffle and draw 7 again. Like that's not a thing. That's never been a thing.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, judges should not be seen as a negative entity, like some type of overlord, right? They're there to actually enforce the rules of the game that you willingly decided to play. I assume willingly. I mean, no one's really usually dragged to a GP or something like that. But
I drag my friends all the time. You're gonna come play Magic with me.
Hey man, my first ever experience at any type of major event was like the Toronto Magic Fest, and it was the freaking most amazing thing ever. Like, it was
a GP as your first actual like.
Well, I mean, I've done. So, I mean, every Saturday my LGS would have a standard tournament, and I would show up there. But it was just like you play three matches, and then if you go 3-0, you get some store credit, and you fucking walk away with an ice cream, and you're like feeling like the boss. But I mean,
3-0 and some ice cream.
3-0 was like, yeah, you get like $30 store credit. It was like $10 down to play. If you 3-0'd, you got $30 credit or whatever the prize was, and the prize was usually like whatever. Like, it was like I don't know, it's something around that price range. It was like a Rekindling Phoenix or something like that, or I don't know. But
sure.
Either way, I've never really participated in anything where I had to, like fucking just make sure that I declared my steps or whatever, because usually the person that I was playing against at the LGS was just like, oh, it's you, I know exactly what you're playing because you bring it every goddamn week, like, so
yep.
But it was a cool experience all in all, and like there was judges sort of lurking around all the time, and I mean, like you said, they're not 99% of the judges aren't there to sort of go in and make you feel like a douchebag, but like
No, they're there to help you. They're there to be informative. If you have questions, like this was the one thing, like when I was teaching my girlfriend how to play. If you think something is wrong, you're like, that's I don't think that's how that card works, or I'm not too sure about it, like, or I my opponent's doing all this stuff and they're going so fast, like I don't know what's going on. Like just stop everything. Just raise your hand, judge. Like I need a judge. Like I have a question. Like if you're I know like one of the biggest things I've seen it's a very old what we call an angle shoot for anybody out there listening who's possibly new. Your opponent's playing with like foreign language cards, and obviously maybe you don't know that card. Like I don't what does that do? And they tell you what it does. If you're not quite sure, if you don't think that's actually what it does, like a judge can just pull up the oracle and tell you exactly what it does.
right.
So it's stuff like that where you're like, if you're not sure, ask. Your opponent cannot stop you from asking a judge. They can't go no, like I
Right.
overruled. Like they can't do that.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is like, have you judged ever any main event, like big events, or like
Just PTQs, just local.
And
PTQs.
now, what's the most bullshit thing that you've ever had to intervene on? Like that to me is more fascinating than
I did it
all
on
the training
myself.
you did. Oh, you called yourself out?
Yeah,
Oh my god!
I forgot to draw my card for a turn.
And what'd you do? You're like, hold on a second.
No,
And
because
then
I
you-
like so I was playing Burn. I know, shocker. And there's a card called Magma Jet where you dealt 2 damage, you scryed 2. Great card. So I knew the exact card was on top of my deck, and I had played out in my head what was going to happen. That I had caught my opponent in lethal, like in a lethal set of spells to kill him, and there was a card at the time called Skullcrack, which was 2 mana, 3 damage. Players cannot gain life this turn. Damage cannot be prevented. Skullcrack was fantastic for burn players. So I had Magma Jet my opponent at the end of turn, and I knew Skullcrack was on top of my deck. So I like untapped, immediately went to combat, like attack you for lethal. They tried to gain life, and I went Skull. Fuck is my Skullcrack? Like,
Oh, you did not draw it.
I just didn't draw it, and so I was like, "Fuck, I didn't draw my card." And I looked at my opponent. I'm like, I didn't draw my card for the turn, so I'm gonna call Judge. And Judge came over and she knew me, and I was like, I didn't draw my card for the turn. I'm in combat. I know the top card of my library. Like this is the set of events that happened. This is where we're at in the turn. It's my turn. And she just looked at me. She's like, "You didn't draw your card for the turn? Like what?
Like, how excited are you? That's like that's the premature ejaculation of magic.
Of
right
magic.
there.
Yeah, just immediately go to combat. So yeah, and they just if the turn can be recreated, it will be. You back the turn up, draw your card. Here's your violation. Like write it down. So of course, like we replayed the whole turn. And the exact thing: attack you for lethal, try to gain life, Skullcrack you. And he's like, "Okay," and scooped up. We go to game 3, And that was possibly the weirdest thing I've been like involved in, other than the tests, like the judge tests or the judge like challenges. But you used to be able to go to the World Championships. They no longer allow you to do this. So back in 2012. It was back in 2012. I went to the last like World Championship. It was in San Francisco, and they had a table there with 2 level 5 judges, which is the highest level you can get to, giving challenges out to judges or just anybody in general who was in the room. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a fucking judge. I'm gonna go do this." And they're like, "All right, you want easy, medium, hard, or impossible?" They were like different colored sleeves, and within the sleeve was like I presented a challenge, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm a judge. I know everything. Give me the hardest challenge." There's only one of them, and I forget the exact cards, but it was like you guys can look up these cards later. But it was like Opalescence, Pandemonium, I forget the name of the card that returns all the enchantments from the graveyard to play, but it was basically and humility was one of the other cards. Basically, like, you have these enchantments in your graveyard. You play a card that returns all enchantments to play. One of the enchantments says creatures deal damage to your opponent equal to their power. One of them says all the enchantments you have are creatures. The other one says all creatures are 1/1s and lose their abilities. Question is, how much damage do you do to your opponent?
Oh man.
And it's like, oh no. Like, you're sitting there going, okay. And this is there's a thing in Magic called layers. And it's basically like when something hits play at what time, you know, it creates a layer effect of it's in Hearthstone actually a little bit, where if I played, you know, the card Sylvanas, deals a creature.
Yeah.
So
it's whenever it hits the board first is what triggers first.
Right, which means the last one resolves first. So
okay, yeah.
But those could be in play forever. And then suddenly they die. So the layers are stuck there like that. So that's kind of like Magic layers where, well, this landed turn 2, and then turn 6 this happened. Well, the layers are now like this. So technically this one's overruled by this one, but this one's still in effect. Like, there's some weird shit that happens, and I think the answer was you didn't deal any damage, because the Pandemonium loses its ability to deal the damage. But I don't. It's so long ago. It was fucking 7 years ago, man.
Right, but did you swagger your way up there and be like, I concede and I scoop on this challenge?
I answered, and I answered wrong. And then he gave me a hard challenge, and I got that one right. But
tell us, redeem yourself. What was the hard challenge?
Oh fuck, I don't remember.
You know,
no.
It's like you're still. I
remember the one I didn't get right. Yeah,
it still haunts you in your dreams.
It does, man. It does. I wish they would bring that stuff back, but we've gone on a massive tangent. Some of the other announcements, Flake. For Magic, can you hit us with the other big one, possibly a 1v1 announcement?
Yes. Okay, so this is right up my alley because this is actually a game format that I started to do at my LGS with like Alias and her husband. We go to the same game store anyways, and we were playing Brawl because we didn't want to play standard meta. So we're doing Brawl, and Brawl's coming to MTG, and now we don't know how far back it's going to extend. Like, is it just standard legal cards, or is it historic, or even beyond that? Like, I don't know. I hope it is.
I'm gonna assume that it's standard.
Well, that's what kind of. I mean, yeah, I get it. Like, I feel like it should be a little bit beyond that. I don't know, but Brawl is cool. And Brawl, if you're not aware of what Brawl it is, it's sort of a standard, smaller sized commander where you pick a card, which is your commander. You can only build a deck based on the color schemes or color mana that is represented on the card, be it in game text or in its cost, etc. And really, really cool. But there's no commander damage, right? In Brawl, I don't believe it's just a 30 life total.
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, so I don't think Brawl plays with commander damage. It just plays with a 30-point life total and the same singleton rules plus commander tax, etc., etc.
And it's 60 cards, right?
60 cards, yes. And this is a phenomenal way to play standard that I really, really like, because anytime, even in Commander 1-on, anytime that even, like, I mean, you've seen it in Singleton, just in general, where you start to see cards that you typically wouldn't see. Like, this is where, like, cards like Murder comes out and Hieromancer's Cage comes out, and these weird cards. You know, like those ones that are useful, but they never make the cut, because why would you play Murder necessarily when you can play Cast Down for cheaper? Or why would you play, you know, Hieromancer's Cage when you can play something a little bit more resourceful? But that's coming out, and I don't know when that's coming out, but that was one of the big announcements that they made at San Diego Comic-Con on that panel as part of the hoopla and whatnot when they were kind of wedging in those new packs of cards and whatnot. So I don't know if you're a Brawl player. I think you're a Commander player. Am I mistaken?
I used to play EDH. I call it EDH.
Sorry. There you go. That's your answer.
No, Commander's the appropriate term, I guess, because that's what their product is named after. But EDH, aka Elder Dragon Highlander. I played it a long time ago, but the problem that I always saw, because I always see problems, was that the group that you played with, if any of you tried playing on like a different power level, it threw the whole fucking thing out of whack. So in EDH, I played Xur, who at the time is like an extremely powerful 1v1 commander. And it far kind of outweighed everybody else's. And so it had to bring everybody up, right? Everybody had to go, okay, if you're going to be playing Necropotence, we got to be playing fucking, Primordial or Sylvan Primordial and shit. Like, we have to up the power levels. And so you kind of just keep one-upping each other until everybody's at the, okay, everybody's cool with dying on turn 2? Alright, good. Like, that type of game. Right. And we were all fine with it, but the problem with that is we only ever played each other. Because if somebody new was introduced, it's like, yeah, I'm going to shuffle up and play Commander. Here's my fucking, I don't know, random dragon person. Like, and we're like, yeah, turn 3, kill everybody. Cool. All right, shuffle up. Next game.
Yeah.
Like, and so that started kind of pushing people away, and they were creating their own. And then, like, our LGS tried doing tournaments, and the tournaments got all fucking out of whack because, like, first and second were the only people who could win points in a pod. So, like, if you sat down with, like, a friend,
right,
you're just like, okay, let's just kill these two, and then, like, I'll just kill you, or you kill me, whatever, it doesn't matter, like, we get 1 and 2. So I feel like the best part of EDH is when you find the group that really, like, gels together and play the same sort of power levels. With Brawl, I would be the asshole who, like, played Baral, Mono Blue commander. The one where, like, instances of sorceries cost 1 less, and then whenever you counter a spell, draw a card. Like, I would be that asshole, especially in 1v1.
So, I mean, the Brawl decks I made were just like, hey, Muldrotha's cool. Or I had, like, a Shalai Selesnya Brawl deck that I would play, which was a lot of fun. Again, it's just a lot of interesting levels. I remember my first EDH ever. Omnath is going to be badass, I think. Omnath or Risen Reef or some garbage like that. But, well, you can't play, it has to be Omnath if you're going to play Risen. Anyway, regardless. It was the first, like, literally the first time I ever had purchased paper Magic cards. I went with my buddy to an LGS. I was, like, all excited. I bought a box of Dominaria. And I was super freaking excited. I'm like, yay, I'm getting into paper. And so I bought my own box, and he bought a box that we all chipped in because we were going to do a Dominaria draft. But while we were waiting for people to show up and do the draft, the guy whose house we went to was like, well, I got some Commander decks if you want to play. And I hadn't played Magic in, like, fucking years. I was just like, I'm getting into it, right? Like, I literally have not even cracked my own packs yet I was excited. I'm like, ooh, a Valiant Knight, or like a, like amazing.
I got a 2/2.
Yeah, it was a 2/2 with first strike. Amazing. So, he sits me down and like, there was like, I think there was like 5 of us, and we're waiting for like a couple more people to show up. And there's 5 of us. So we all do like this 5-point commander and explaining the rules. And he's like, yeah, here's a deck. What colors you like? I'm like, I like all colors. I don't fucking know. And we're playing. And I remember this because, like, these characters that I'm playing against, and I call them characters because their personalities were so interesting. Like, one of them was dressed like he looked like a Filipino, like Indiana Jones. Like, he had like a hat and a vest and like
super dressed up.
I was like, he had a canteen. I don't know, for some reason. I was just like, he almost had a bullwhip. It literally looked like he was like, right afterwards he was going to open another Jurassic Park. Like, that's what it looked like to me. But he was like doing voices for his commander, and then another dude was just like, it was really weird because I never met these people in my life, and I'm just trying to read the cards and understand the game. And the dude that was like in 5-point, I don't know if you ever played 5-point, probably have, where like you the people to your right and left are allies, and you attack the people directly across from you.
Yes.
So the guy right next, like across from me, he was very nice and helpful. He's like, okay, what you probably want to do with that commander is this, that, that. And then at one point, I attack him and he's like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and then I play a card. He's like, well, fuck you. And he like plays all these spells and fucking, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like he scared the living shit out of me. Like he was like fucking, and I'm like, all right.
It was that guy.
He was that guy. He's like, or no, I think what he did was he convinced me against playing a spell to beef up my dude. He's like, no, you don't want to do that. Like you're already ahead of me in like strength and whatever, and I'm tapped out, so you don't want to waste a spell like that. I was like, okay, so I won't play it. And I didn't play it. It was like at sorcery speed too, so I couldn't even do it. So I moved to attack, and I go, and I attack, and he's like, but my commander can do this, and scrap this and pay with my life this and fuck your guy and do this. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. And like everyone at the table was like, just let him fucking like there's no crying at this table. And that's going to be, that might be up for debate once you still like Flake's just like, I was there. I was like, Jesus fuck it. Anyways, needless to say, I never played with them ever again. Not because they're bad people, but like at one point I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I'm not ready for this level of commanderness. Like they were just, like they had voices for their dudes, and I was like, I don't have that. I'm playing with Slimefoot. Like fuck you all,
That's what I'm saying is like you got to find a group that kind of like you gel with super well. That you challenge each other, but you don't piss each other off. That's the thing, and so I kind of gave up. Besides the fact that Command or EDH is fucking expensive as shit now, it's actually kind of like the push for all of the finance bullshit that's happening. Like I just stopped playing EDH in general. So it coming to Arena, even if it's just Brawl, even if it's only 1v1, additional formats and other ways to play outside of ranked, draft, and best of one, good.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you want as many
always good
formats as possible, right? Like, why would you want to hold back if, like, it's, in my opinion, I mean, as long as you can't have a ladder for everything necessarily, but you can always have ways to play. Like
I'll play devil's advocate here. Like, I would think a reason why you don't want a absolute shitload of formats on something like Arena is because you start to spread your player base super thin, and you start to create these weird like queue times where I only play traditional ranked. If you have 30 different formats, you start to lower the player count in ranked, suddenly my queue times are a few minutes. I start getting pissed off. Or you get really weird ass matchmaking, like what happened to me like fucking 2 weeks ago, where I'm mythic like number 70. I play against a Diamond 2 player.
What's the penalty for you if you lose?
I lost like 300 spots.
Oh, so you lost. That's the problem. Or did you? You could probably even lose spots if you win. I mean, probably not.
But that's the thing is like, that's why I say like additional formats is good, but we don't need a format for everything.
Okay, like, but that's sound reasoning on that part.
Yeah,
I think that they're just banking on the fact that the game is still in a state of growth where you can inject some more formats to it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like you don't want to have
like everybody wants Omniscience Draft as like a format, and it's like no, like leave that as an event that happens every few weeks, and it's fun to play, and it drains gold. The whole point of these things is to drain gold from the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think they saw that Singleton was really popular. Singleton got a shitload of play when it's around as an event. So this is their way of creating Singleton as a format while satisfying the people who rage about Commander not being in Arena. So
but it's like, a good way to...
Here's both. Have fun.
It allows players also to utilize their collections, right? Because not everybody's going to have, a tier 1 vampire deck with I have 4 Ebon Legions, 4 Sorens, for this, for that, for whatever. A lot of people just have knickknacks, kind of like they have this collection that kind of spans one-ofs of all kinds of nonsense that you'll never really be able to cobble together to actually be competitive with. But in a brawl format, in a brawl format, that one Ripjaw Raptor is good, that one Regisaur is good, that one Galta is good, other than having 4 ofs to actually make something cohesive and consistent. So I'm excited for it, and I'm really jacked up for this, because this is kind of what I'm hoping like MTGA eventually evolves into, is like, I don't think that there's enough of a culture shift between best of 1 and best of 3 people. Like, there's nobody who's just like, I only play this, or I only play that. There are people who only play Commander. There are people who only play certain formats. There are people who just love drafting, and they draft until they don't play Limited. I think this is just yeah, well, it does happen. Like, there are, like, I love, as soon as there's a format for draft that of cards that I really like, for instance, if it was Dominaria draft, if it was M20 draft or whatever, like, I'll draft that shit all day long. The difference here is that there's a paywall behind playing draft, right? Obviously, because you're keeping the cards, which is tough. I mean, it's tough. It is what it is. But I think with something like this is enough of a culture shift away from other formats that people will probably be very devoted to it. I think that there's going to be a subculture in MTGA where it's going to be like, for instance, you can see the same 5 or 6 main decks exist in a meta at the top in Mythic. Like, you're gonna, if you play 100 games on Mythic, you'll have X amount of percentage are Vampire, X amount of percentage are Esper, X amount of percentage are Nexus or Simic or whatever, or Flash. But I think that if you play into Brawl, I think that kind of goes out the window, because a lot of people are going to be playing with cards like as focal points, cards that they really fucking like. I don't think that it's going to succumb too much to the net deck habits as things like Constructed will. And I mean, I'm probably going to eat these words once we're a week in and you see a million Omnath decks, because Frosty put a list up that's really good, the Frosty Omnath deck. But I'm just saying,
you will see certain commanders sort of rise above the rest of them, right? Like, if you're going to play Rug, you're going to play blue, you're going to play red, you're going to play green. There are maybe 3, commanders you can use. One of them being Omnath.
Right.
If you're going to play Omnath, you fucking might as well play Elementals. And your core is going to be the same, but there's going to be small variations outside of that, right? And that's what it's going to come down to is, how many legendary creatures of certain color combinations can they make without, 1, breaking standard, and 2, having them be viable to create different variations of decks for EDH. But I guarantee you, as long as there's a reward for it, if there's a ladder or some sort of prize at the end of the tunnel, people will find the quickest and fastest route to that. What's a mono red legendary right now? We can use Planeswalkers, right? Fuck it, I'll play Chandra.
Can you actually use Planeswalkers as your commander?
I don't know, actually.
I don't think you can. No, but
you should.
Exactly. No, but fuck it.
You just
okay, my commander is Rekindling Phoenix. I don't even know how that would even work.
It has to be a legendary,
right? No, it doesn't. I don't think it does.
For Brawl? For Brawl, it has to be legendary. Tiny Leaders is different.
Okay, maybe I got this wrong.
Because I think Tiny Leaders is...
okay.
I think it's any uncommon or rare or uncommon. I don't know the fucking... Anyway.
So fuck it, Krenko or some shit like that.
Sure, yeah.
Krenko is your dude, and then you just go apeshit with it. But you're right, because it's going to be all right, well, Lightning Strike, Wizard's Lightning, Shock, there we
go. Chat got us. Any legendary creature or planeswalker from a set currently in standard. So yeah.
Oh, so even a planeswalker. Okay, so
Chandra. Right. Oh, Teferi, fuck you.
No, that would be the worst. Teferi, the 3, because you get them every goddamn time.
I broke
Oh
it,
my-
chat. I broke
No,
it.
you did already break it, because just imagine how fucking shitty it would be where you queue into the dude and you see that car right there on the sideboard ready, just fucking stare. That's why those googly eyes are so goddamn important, because it would just intimidate the shit out of you. You queue into Brawl, those eyes are staring right into your goddamn soul, and it's just waiting, because it's like, as soon as I hit the fucking board, it's my turn or it's no turn. Like, that's essentially what happens.
Well, at least
I'm so
if there
mad.
if there are if planeswalkers are allowed, that means there's going to be a larger variety. You're going to see quite a bit of Grixis and everything like that. But
Oh my God,
in any
Bolas.
case, all of these announcements wrapped up in San Diego Comic-Con. The big announcement from San Diego Comic-Con for Magic is the newest set, which we haven't talked about yet.
No, we have not.
Throne of Eldraine?
I'm not going to
Eldraine?
even take a venture on the actual pronunciation. I'm going to wait for someone else to braver than I am to actually.
I think it's called Throne of Eldraine.
Eldraine. Yeah.
Eldraine? I don't
Call it
fucking-
Throne. We'll just call it Throne.
Call it Throne. And within this Game of Thrones, everybody thought it was going to be fairies because fairies was on the art. But turns out it's just fucking fairy tales.
Very cool,
it
though.
is actually is it Arthurian? Is that what it's called?
Well, it
Like-
said they called it Camelot with Grim Fairy Tales, like kind of like the two themes put together. So there's going
Right.
to be a fairy tale theme, but under the lens of grim fairy tales, kind of thing. Like yeah, Arthurian, Camelot kind of
Right.
going on.
And the two main characters are the two planeswalkers from I think it was what was the one EDH only set called?
There's one called
Battle
Will
Bond.
something.
Battle Bond.
Right.
I forget the two characters' names, but it was the brother and sister.
Will something and some, I don't know what their names are, but there's
yeah.
speculation already that they're going to be like Hansel and Gretel or something like that in the set.
Well, no, because the art for her is Red Riding Hood.
Oh, okay. I'm already.
So she's Red
Prove me
Riding
wrong.
Hood, and he, I think the art for him was like he was almost like Sleeping Beauty, where he was asleep, with like the
Okay.
Planeswalker symbol in the middle of it. It's Seth, what's his name? The dude with the crazy art with all the mushrooms always on it.
Seb something.
Seb McKillian.
Yeah.
He did the art for him, and so they showed those two, and it's like, okay, she's Red Riding Hood, he's this, but it's like, wait a minute, if we're doing like Red Riding Hood and Arwen, Seb McKinnon, that's his name. Arwen is the wolf because she's a werewolf, and I think she's supposed to be in it. We have all this. We gonna see Garruk come back as the hunter?
I've seen a little bit of that, and again, you're more
What-
more in depth and delved into the lore than I am. So, I'm very interested. Like they already leaked sort of some of the card designs, but not just the card designs in terms of artwork or whatnot, but the actual card text, like the game text, how it's separated into two different sort of panels. They haven't exactly discussed how that's going to be changed, but apparently there's going to be new mechanics that involve like
There's like
dual
storybook
text.
style.
Yeah, which is very fascinating because I mean we already saw sagas that had chapters, so I don't know if it's something where it's you pay to
To turn the page.
something along those lines, which is really very fascinating. And again, they're slowly leaking that stuff out, and totally cool. And I'm very interested. But I like knights, so we're probably going to get a little bit of injection of knights because Dominaria is kind of rotating out, so there's a lot of knights that are out the way
Yeah.
from there.
That's true.
But I'm super. I'm always just thrilled. Like I wasn't War of the Spark. I think to me was a set that had so much thunder but no lightning. You know, like it was a lot of there's a lot of rumble and not once it kind of touched down. Like they kind of they hype trained it really impressively with all the cinematics and this and that, and there's gonna be a planeswalker in every pack, so you're never gonna not be upset about what you open and all this other shit. But at the end of the day, I wasn't like it seemed like that set was just kind of it had some bombs and then it had a lot of like
It was just too much. It's just overstuffed with, like the thing is, they kind of broke their own rule, like which they do this all the time. But like planeswalkers are supposed to be special, right? They're supposed to be these insanely important characters that, you get maybe 2 in a whole set. They're mythic rares and they're ultra powerful, and now suddenly they're uncommon. They're rare. Like, there's 3 Chandra. Actually, how many Chandras? I got this wrong on the trivia.
You got it wrong on the trivia. There are now. I think there are. Oh my god.
There's 12. There's 12 red
Chandras.
walkers, but 6 Chandras.
6 Chandras. Yeah. So you have 6 versions of Chandra. I listen. I totally agree with you. And I played Magic like 20 years ago, and then I played Magic up to like a year and a half ago. And I remember Magic as being it's creatures, it's strategy, it's how to weasel through the board to actually get a win condition. Now it's just, unfortunately, it seems that planeswalkers are no longer special. They're just not. It's what you include instead of playing an enchantment, almost. It's
right?
Like, why would I? They're just enchantments you can attack that have really OP abilities.
Right.
So, I mean, I would love to see it back to a state where it's like, I would love to see every color have like 2, or there's, every set would get 1, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the fact that that's what the game's sort of migrated
I wonder,
towards.
Like, if planeswalkers equal like packs sold, like, do planeswalkers actually sell packs? Does the fact that I can open, one of the Chandras make me buy a pack of M20?
Well, okay, let's put it this way then. What was, like, I don't know what the major impact what's like a major impact non planeswalker card right now? Let's say you're opening,
standard.
Yeah, or like let's say Rekindling Phoenix. Like, I love red or Gruul or whatever. I need Rekindling Phoenix. Is that going to stop the fact that there's no major planeswalkers in that set? Is that going to stop you from actually opening those packs? There's always going to be a chase, a certain element of chase cards, because it just so happens that it's always the most, like, more often than not, the most powerful card is going to be the planeswalker. Because opening a red shell like a mythic Chandra right now is a really fucking amazing feeling. And let's be honest, if you can look at the pack before you open it and say what do you want it to be, it's always going to be that. No one looking at the fucking pack and say, God damn, I really fucking hope this is another Banalish Marshall. Like, no one fucking cares at that point. It's like Teferi or bust at that point. But does it sell packs? It sells packs because there's going to be cards that are more powerful than others. Are they always planeswalkers? More often than not, unfortunately, they are. But like, it's just, I think it's just too much, man. Like, I think that it's cool. It's totally fucking cool if maybe, like, let's just put it this way. If they wiped it all out now and everything rotated with M20, I think it's totally cool if, like, M20 happens, red got Chandra next set, white gets some pretty sick shit, and the other colors get some good creatures, for example. And then the next set, blue gets the awesome Planeswalker package, but maybe weaker other cards. And then the next set, green does. I don't think that's bad. I think that they actually need to maybe pump the brakes on how much Planeswalker Fiesta is going on.
Pump the brakes. I want them to remove the engine.
Like, oh, you want it gone altogether?
I want the Planeswalker card type gone.
Do you think that'll ever happen?
No, fuck no.
You don't think so?
No, but in the deepest fucking part of my heart, I want the Planeswalker card type gone. I felt it has done nothing but bad things to Magic. It is forced an absurd number of rules changes. It has caused a shit ton of confusion. It has birthed some of the most, like, horrible metas. Like, since they've, like, the first set of Planeswalkers were fine. Perfectly fine. Some of them were good. Most of, like, they were all good in their own way. But none of them were like, if I'm playing blue back then, was I gonna be playing Jace? Maybe.
Right.
Probably, but not like instant 4 of have to play it. But now you play blue white, you're fucking immediately playing what 12 walkers, 4 Narset, 4 Teferi, 4 Teferi, right?
Yeah, it's the package. I mean, and it's kind of gross because even and if you a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but there are some people who were even throwing in like a one of Liliana just to throw in as an extra
Yeah,
threat, or and that's the shitty part about it, right? Is that if you want to be, first of all, if you want to be competitive in any control related element, like or deck type, you're going to need planeswalkers because you need stuff that's going to survive board sweeps and survive, like creature control, that element. Because if you're going into a game as a control player, why am I going to play things that are susceptible to cards that my opponent has, like cast down or anything, right? Like if you're not presenting any creatures, you need another threat on the board as a control player. So it's going to be planeswalkers, and that's just the way it's going to be. But I think that, like, if I had to go with Feast or Famine, if it was no planeswalkers or tons of planeswalkers, I'd go with none.
yeah,
I would definitely go with none. But I believe that it's not just a matter of the fact that there might be. I agree that I think there's too many, but I think that the ones that are out there are just way too powerful. I think that some of them are just way too. Not to mention they hit the board, and if they resolve, they immediately get their action, right. It's just right
yeah,
away you get to do what they want to do before they actually, unless like even something with haste, like you can drop something down that's big, bad, and nasty, but if you have an answer for it before it actually gets to sort of claw at your face, you get to, play Mortify on it or do something, like you get to get
yeah.
rid of it. Whereas a Planeswalker, you throw it down and immediately Chandra can go uptick to 8, and then you're on a clock.
Right. And I think what chat's saying, like, that the current planeswalkers, like, they're not specific to an archetype. Like, if you look at some of the uncommon ones out of War, like, what's the Darth Vader one? The dude that discards?
Oh, Ashiok?
No, the other one, the mono black one.
Oh,
I call him Darth Vader. Davriel. Davriel, that
definitely,
guy.
yeah.
Like, he's super specific for what he does. He makes you discard a card and it becomes a rack. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't just chuck him into a random control deck and expect him to do anything because it's one discarded turn and then it becomes a rack like later on. Like you have to build around him. Like the Teferis, no fucking building around. Like they're infinite card draw engines, and one of them turns the game from Magic to Hearthstone. So
That's the ambient effect.
fucking oh well there, and I think that's true. That if we went back to like planeswalkers that were very very specific in what they did, where they fit, like the current Chandra, the big Chandra.
Mm-hmm.
I think the can't be countered on her is a little much. That's a line of text that probably doesn't need to be there. But she doesn't go insane. Like she doesn't
No.
have some game winning ultimate that if you don't deal with her right away, like the game's just gonna be over. Like with Teferi, right? When Teferi ultimates, you lost. Like you did. It's just gonna take me a bit to make you lose.
Right.
And all the while, like, drawing and untapping, whereas Sean's just like, alright, I'm gonna hit you for 1 a turn. Alright, now I'm gonna hit you for 2 a turn. I'm gonna hit you for 3 a turn. And
Right.
you can offset that by pressuring back, you know. And I think Chandra was made to combat the Teferi decks that were happening where the Esper decks that only won with Teferi or the Bant decks that only won with Teferi. Because, I can create this loop of, well, I'm just going to tuck Teferi every turn until you mill out. Like, that's cool. You have an emblem that deals you 1 every turn. Can you outrace that?
Yeah.
Like, probably not.
Well, I sincerely think that. Well, that's and I completely agree with you that when they were designing this card, the whole this spell can't be countered was probably because of the fact that if you're playing that Teferi deck, that like long-winded or that Nexus deck, they're gonna see it coming and they're gonna pack a negate or Dovin's Veto or whatever it is to actually counter it. You need that card to hit the board and uptick in order to actually put put your foot on the back of the necks of these Nexus decks and these, and I think it's fantastic. I think that the new Chandra is amazing because it doesn't have an ultimate ability, which it does not. It has a board clear option, as you look at my pasty legs. Sorry,
yes, nice legs there. Hold on,
trying to stretch out.
Hold on. Hold on, I gotta go over this side.
And I spent the weekend in the sun. This is the best I can do. This is the best I can do. Now I'm not I have a leg. It's there. Oh, my socks are green, by the way.
Nice green socks.
Right. So that said, it doesn't have an ultimate, right? It has like a board sweeper for non-elementals. It has targeted removal, and then it has the clock. And thank God it doesn't have an ultimate ability, because I can fucking barely imagine what something like that would be. I actually think that this Chandra might be, I don't want to say like underpriced, because 6 is pretty big, but I think it's probably the perfect mythic. I think
right. No, she's really well
perfectly designed. I think it's the perfectly designed card, because even though it comes in with a pretty hefty 6, might have been too much. I could have seen it at like 5 or 4 to begin with, upticking. But
could you imagine Chandra on the turn that opponents have played Nissa?
Oh yeah, I guess Nissa's just filth. Like, she is a filthy. I think I think Nissa's another one that should have been mythic and should not have an ultimate that's that.
She is mythic, isn't she?
No, she's rare. Nissa's a rare card. I think that she should have been like the green mythic, and man, it's just, she makes everything just so much better. Like, she gives so much mileage off of your land, and like, she just fits in so fucking well, because you can see her on turn 3, and then it's just game over. But like, sayonara. Yeah. And I'm just like having this PTSD.
Aethergust does stop Chandra for a turn, due to how that is worded.
Correct, because it just puts it back to the top of the list, so top of the deck. But you're not gonna. I mean, what's the point at that point? I mean, yeah, it'll work.
Buys you a turn.
It buys you. I guess it buys you a turn, and maybe you see it coming next turn, so you can set up to actually deal with it. Off the board, so it doesn't.
So you can set up your +1 on Little Teferi. On your draw step, thought erasure you, take the Chandra.
Ooh.
There's nothing you can do about it.
That's true. Get those, get that full control on the stoppage of like phases going, and then you can actually do that. I think one of the most nastiest moves that someone put on me with that was like, I had a Regisaur, and before he killed it, he let me draw the card so I can discard it, and then he killed it. I was like, you son of a bitch. Someone found the full control. Someone like shift tabbed or did whatever it took. Like, you son of a bitch.
Yes. But I mean, it's. Oh, we'll see what Throne brings in terms of walkers. We know at least 2 of them.
Yeah, we don't know what they do though, right?
No.
Yeah.
You have to assume. I think somebody in chat said it earlier. It's Will Kenrith and Rowan Kenrith, so the brother and sister, Will and Rowan, and it's. I think they showed both their arts with Rowan being. I think it's Rowan being Red Riding Hood, and Will just kind of being Sleeping Beauty. I'm worried.
I like this kind of. Well, don't be worried. I mean, you never know until it doesn't matter what the theme is until you figure out what the actual game text says, right? It could.
No. I'm not. I don't give a shit about like the theme of the set or anything like that. I'm worried about like, in terms of, was War super successful? We don't know, right? We have. I don't know if we have the data out there. I'm sure it's somewhere.
The cards were impactful. I mean,
right.
Look how it shaped. Look how it shaped certain decks that are in existence, right? I mean, Tamiyo really helped Nexus. There was how many Planeswalkers that have come out, or between Teferi and Narset giving Esper like extra fucking legs to really fuck you over and bring prominence to it. Did it help mono red any? Was Spectacle? Spectacle was in the Ravnica block, so I don't even think it.
Well, Spectacle was before War. Out of War, what did Red get?
Yeah, Red didn't really.
They
do
just got
anything.
Chandra, the 4-mana Chandra. Right?
Yeah, it was like there's so it shaped the meta because it gave certain archetypes really powerful tools. So it's like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like. I think M20 did a better job of shaking up the meta a little bit. It gave everybody a little bit of something to sort of jam with. Plus, protection and targeted spells are like sideboard, heroes, right? So they kind of allow you to make better games out of the kind of shitty hands or the shitty matchups that you've drawn.
The problems with protection is for another episode.
Yes.
We'll
Totally
talk about
okay
that
with
another time. But before we kind of bounce on out here, Flake, was there anything else in terms of the card game world from other games that you want to talk about? Any news on Gwent?
So, I mean, in terms of news on Gwent, Gwent is in a state right now where they're kind of good. I'm anticipating probably at the end of this month. I mean, they did postpone their Challenger, which is like one of their main tournament circuits. Their Challenger was supposed to actually be this past weekend. I was supposed to be in Poland this weekend for that tournament that got postponed due to various reasons. I suspect it's because there was balance issues, which there are balance issues because there's a balance patch coming at the end of the month. So I don't think they wanted to really do a tournament when there was a little bit of tweaking that needed to be done. Nonetheless, September is when that's happening, and there's a balance patch that is scheduled for the end of this month. So I'm super excited for that to occur because I'm not trying to shill the game. I love all card games, but Gwent is such a unique card game in comparison to other games like Hearthstone, Magic, whatever, that have life totals and that. I just wish it was better balanced, which it will be at the end of this month, hopefully, that it's like it finally finds its nice little niche and perfect sort of balance there. But that's, I mean, gets the news from that front. Hearthstone's been leaking cards here and there.
Set Saviors, right? Is what it's called.
I believe it is, and there's some like cool new quests coming out. Again, it depends on where you're picking up the reaction, if it's off like Reddit or just out of Twitter or whatnot. The reaction to a lot of the cards has actually been positive. There's some cool stuff. People are already sort of piecing together new combos. So again, Hearthstone is still rattling on and rolling, like clockwork, pumping out their one set every 3 months and doing what they're doing. And
yeah,
I mean, it's only so many hours in a day, right, Frosty, where you can't
absolutely can't do everything.
No, man, you just can't. And I would love to, but it's just not viable.
Yeah. Quick question from chat. If we talked about Brawl only being 1v1, we talked about Brawl a bit earlier, but I don't think we mentioned it about just being 1v1. Any quick thoughts on that, Flake?
The only times I've ever played Brawl was like 3 people or 4 people. I've never done a 1v1 Brawl. But that's not true. I have. But I don't know if it's going to be that. I don't think they've announced it. I think it's 1v1.
They announced that it's 1v1 only.
Yeah. So I would love it to be multiple players, but at that point, that seems like that's like a bigger technical nightmare, I think, that they have to figure out beyond just actually coding the Brawl mechanics and such, like with commander tags and whatever. That to me is something where it's like, it's the difference of changing the air filter in your car and changing the fucking, the transmission. So I think they're like, well, we'll just change the filter and people will breathe easier, but the fucking transmission that's a whole different fucking ballgame. So
yeah, I think I'm with you there, where I don't want to say be happy with what you got, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, they had said before that getting the command zone working properly was already a nightmare, so they've clearly spent some time doing that in order to get Brawl working, and then to add in multiplayer on top of that, which the game isn't built from the ground up for multiplayer. It's just not. So you'd have to completely rip apart like how that even functions in order to get multiple people into play. So I think they're probably using this as they use Singleton as a test bed. We knew that Singleton was a test bed. Did people actually play this? Yes, they did. Okay, let's work on Brawl. All right, here's Brawl 1v1 now. Are people actually going to play Brawl? If they are, maybe later on down the road you see multiplayer.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I would not get your hopes up for any multiplayer at all down the road whatsoever.
To be fair, though, I mean, we're getting a lot of interesting content because, like, it's not just a matter of, okay, we're going to rotate every week a different draft style or different draft set. We're actually getting different events, and that in itself has to be coded and set up in a special, significant way. So getting major changes to format like this, like Brawl, is actually a big win. And keep in mind, I mean, although the game is out of beta, essentially, the fact that you're getting this kind of new stuff, like to me, no offense, I'd rather see, before they start putting some other crazy shit in multiplayer, like throw in a spectator mode and throw in a friends list and throw in all this other kinds of stuff, right? Like these seem like better priorities than having this crazy array of different formats and multiplayer, like two-headed giant and shit like that. Like, also keep in mind, they're not saying that, I don't think that they're the type of people who's like, okay, well, we'll have MTGA for 3 years and then you all can go fuck yourself. It's like,
no, this is gonna be around a long time.
Exactly. We have all fucking, like, Hearthstone's been around for what, 6-7 years now. Think about it.
I am, because I was in the beta. 2014.
So
that's about 5 years, a little over 5 years now.
Yeah, and I joined that right as Naxxramas was dropping.
Max out.
Yeah. So
Max
once
out.
Once Nax dropped, that's when I got in. But like, think about it, like that's 6 whole years or 5-6 years of the actual game existing, and they're still pumping out new stuff. Now, Hearthstone's different because they took
Blizzard money.
Yeah, well, they have Blizzard money, true, but Wizards of the Coast money probably looks at Blizzard money and jerks off on it and walks away. Blizzard money is huge money, but you have to understand that Wizards money is mostly Magic.
It's Hasbro money.
Okay, well, that's it. So there's no paper. Keep in mind that Hearthstone doesn't have a paper version that they can also generate revenue off of, right?
That's
like
true.
Wizards is like, oh, you're gonna buy all our shit twice, and one of it's not even gonna exist in real life. Like, fucking go for it. Absolutely. We're selling you hopes and dreams. Like, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're in any rush to sort of pump out formats because they do it all within the span of 18 months, and now you have everything. The fuck are you gonna hope for? At the 2-year anniversary, when eventually you need new shit. So
and we did talk about how the more and more formats you add, you start to thin out the player base, or at least in my opinion, I think you start to. And so they want to see how many people are actually going to play Brawl. They want to see how many people are going to stick with it. I don't know if it's a ladder or not. We don't have any of that information. I think they just announced it's going to be 1v1 Brawl. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to be able to break from once you hit Mythic and Ladder or whatever, and you're like, okay, I don't need to grind to top 1 because I don't care. Like, I hit my Mythic, I'm out, and it's a good way to keep somebody like me in who I don't care about drafting and I don't really want to go play best of 1 ladder. So yeah, let me play something fucking weird. So I'm all for it.
I dig it, and I can't wait to use your Omnith list.
Yes. Keep an eye out. I'm gonna break the Brawl meta.
Break it.
100% with Teferi. All right. Love you too. Before we get out of here, let's do some shout outs. Flake, my man.
Yes. With the new shout out page, here I am. I guess a major shout out to, I'm going to give a shout out to my parents who housed me for the weekend and fed me like the king that I am in their eyes. So that was awesome. But major shout out again to Frosty for putting this all together, and to the viewers and etc. So you can catch me at twitch.tv/WatchFlake Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, or on Twitter @WatchFlake. And again, Frosty, always a pleasure, my man. And episode 2 in the books, our best yet.
Definitely our best yet. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. As always, my name is Frosty. with my man Flake. If you guys are hanging around here, I'll be continuing streaming. We're gonna be playing some Magic a little bit later tonight. Flake, are you streaming later or?
No, I am going to go to bed. I had
go
a
get some
6-hour car ride. Yeah, so I'm ready to hit the hay.
All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to give it a listen, it'll be up on YouTube in a few days, and it's also available on Spotify. If you head over to Spotify and search up Frosty and Flake Show, it will be there. Go ahead and hit that little follow button over there. And weekly episodes about card games and other bullshit. So, thanks guys for watching. Peace out.